Good morning, and thank you again for the kind invitation received to attend and to be a speaker on this very important event, Globe Oil India 2022. It is a pleasure for me to be the speaker for Global Soya Outlook. My name is Gustavo Idigoras. I'm currently the chairman of the National Edible Oil Industry of Argentina, and we have a very close contact and, in fact, agreement with the Solvent Extractor Association of India. So thank you again for this invitation. Talking about soya outlook, let's go first to bring the attention to this specific sentence coming for one of the last report of Oil World magazine. In August of last month, they published this sentence saying that uncertain supply prospect keep prices supported on the soya market and particularly on soya oil market. It is quite true that global oilseed production will increase in 2021-2022, but the growth may turn out smaller than expected. In fact, production prospects have been deteriorated in India due to weather conditions, but also grains and oilseed crops are affected by dry weather in part of Russia and Kazakhstan. This comes on top of further downward revisions for the Canadian crop, primary canola. High prices can still cure the international trends through larger planting, but if weather conditions help. Last USDA report published early September showed an increase of the initial stocks for 2021 US production from 118 million tons till 919 million tons, which is a slightly increase of 1 million tons. But also reduce imports and increase exports. Stocks goes from 4.2 to 5 million tons, slightly below 5.2 million tons expected. Globally, due to higher production inventories, were projected with an increase from 1.7 million to raise the total volume of 98.9 million tons. It is expected a production of 141 million tons of soya for Brazil. And this week have been projected in Argentina an important reduction of the forecast of the soya production. It was expected, according by the last report of USDA, a production of 52 million tons, but our National Grain Board have published this week a reduction of that, and it is projected that our production for the next season will be around 44 million tons. Meaning with that dry weather conditions, La Niña effect, will impact again in Argentina and probably in part of the South American soya production. If we go to export, then we can focus particularly on US. US have still concentrate export to China. During the first 6 months to China, US has exported more than 7 million tons of a total of 20 million tons. US export sales to China have clearly gained some momentum during August, which is a good news for US farmers in the view of still large Brazilian export supply. You see here, Brazil have exported more than 45 million tons and is expected to continue doing so to China. So Brazil, if we speak globally, is remaining the first supplier to the Chinese market, which is the largest importer worldwide. If we go to the case of Argentina, which is the third world exporter of soya, we have been exported in the first 6 months of this year more than 1.5 million tons, and we expect to finish to China. We expect to finish to export not more than 5 million tons, including China and Egypt as the second market. Here we have the 3 suppliers worldwide, meaning the quite important increase of Brazil. Brazil, due to the fact of political tensions among China and US, has gained a lot of market share. It is expected to have 55% of the total global market of soya coming from Brazil, which led to US around 40% and to Argentina less than 5%. If we go to the soya oil world market, it is important to say that the appreciation of mineral oil prices provides some support to vegetable oil prices. However, the price gains were limited to palm oil and even less in soya oil. The US government may retroactively lower biofuel mandates for 2021, particularly on HVO. And Brazil will cap biodiesel blending to 10% in November or December of this year. But for 2022, blending mandates in Brazil and Indonesia are an uncertain question due to the fact of higher international prices. Authorities have become more ready to adjust biofuel targets downward upon realizing the effect of tight feedstock supply on domestic food prices. Such sudden change of parameters are making demand partially unpredictable and magnify price volatility in our markets. If you see here, the export of US soya oil worldwide, South Korea is still the main market, and it has been exported no more than 150,000 tons. If we go to the case of Brazil, then you realize that Brazil exports less than 1 million tons of soya oil, particularly to China, which is remain as the main market. But if you go to the case of Argentina, Argentina has been exporting the first semester around 4 million tons, and it is expected to export around 6 million tons during the whole year. But particularly focus on India. Argentina is the main supplier of soya oil to the Indian market. The Indian market has already received in the first 6 months around 1.8 million tons, and is expected to finish to have probably 1 million tons in addition. If we see what happened on the relationship among production and crushing by countries, it is important to point out that the level of production, of course, in Brazil and US are higher than Argentina, 144 million tons, in Brazil, 118 million tons in US, and 52 million tons in our current campaign, which is expected to be reduced by 44 million tons by the next one. But did you see in crushing and the level of crushing on the total annual production, Brazil has only 33% of crushing percentage, going to 51% in the case of US, but leading Argentina of around 83%, meaning with that Argentina has a strategy to crush soya in the country and export only soy meal and soybean oil. Finally, if we see what is happening in the case of the world soya oil market, Argentina has a share of around 76% of the total world market, and particularly focused in the Indian market. Policy change has contributed to a massive setback of palm oil consumption in European markets, due to the fact that European Union have reduced or have introduced an amendment to the EU Renewal Directive, reducing or criticizing the level of reduction of greenhouse emission saving by coming from palm oil. But this important setback did not prevent palm oil prices to be increased to multi-year high prices due to unforeseen production losses. The current recovery of palm oil will increase production, should soon reduce pressure on prices. Palm oil import demand from India may continue to suffer in the near term. If we go directly to the case of India, India recently decided to introduce a reduction on import duties for soya oil and sunflower oil. This temporary reduction in import duties in India is considered very positive for Argentina. But we consider that it is not enough to give Indian consumers a break and to attack the inflation rate. Because this measure is a very temporary measure and it only lasts a very short time. And Argentina has a maritime distance of around 30 days. So little could be done to meet that demand. So it is a priority for the government to try to establish low import tariff for around 2 years to mitigate the effect of high international prices, to increase import of at lower prices of soya oil, and to try to stabilize the edible oil market in India. Low import tariff for unrefined soybean and sunflower oil is, to our understanding, the solution for the inflation and the Indian consumer. The same thing has happened in the case of soya meal, which India has decided to introduce a tariff quota at zero duty for around 1.2 million tons, but it's also a temporary reduction and a temporary quota. So we are asking also with the same condition. Finally, Argentina will remain to be the largest counterpart and trade partners that the Indian importers and consumers may trust to give assurance to the food security in India. So let's continue working together. Thank you very much for this invitation.